marefu na mapana, TV bora ya maadili, inayotupa yaliyo ya kheri. Waislamu lijueni hili, TV bora ni Al-Haajar.
You must have ihtiram for the imam because he is the one leading the salah. هو بمثابة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. وأقم الصلاة. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. آمين يا رب العالمين. And inshallah ta'ala, my dear respected brothers and sisters, بإذن الله الكريم, what we're going to do, we're going to look into the mufsidat al-salah. Ma yufsidu salatik. What is it that nullifies your salah? Now, if you look at the previous classes, we covered what nullifies your wudu. Like at the moment, we're covering what nullifies your salah. And those are two different topics. Because if we talk about wudu, then we're talking about the prerequisites of salah. Shurutu salati, isn't it? You have to have wudu, those which come before salah. Lakin, are they from the mahiyya of salah, the exact methodology of salah, the practice of salah, the kayfiyya of salah? No. They are the ones that complete the entire salah completely. Lakin, if there are actions, or maybe there are also things that if you are to commit them in salah, they will nullify your actual salah itself. And والمصنف رحمه الله تعالى نفعل الله به وبعلومه في الدارين آمين يا رب العالمين. He mentions them beautifully over here, and we're going to look into them inshallah ta'ala right now. However, there's a part where it talks about if someone is to add certain raka'at in a salah. Let's say, for example, if you are to add 4 raka'at, maybe another 4 more units on a maghrib prayer, or maybe 4 more units on a salah that is consisting of 4 raka'at, like Salatul Dhuhr or Salatul Asr or Salatul Isha, then your salah becomes batila straight away. هذه تفسد صلاتك. But we're not going to mention it because it's related to what? Sajdatul Sahw. It's related to Sajdatul Sahw, inshallah ta'ala. But we're going to focus mainly on this right now because this is what you need the most. A person fulfills their Sajdatul Sahw majority of the times when they are, maybe they've not paid attention in their salah, or maybe they're focused on something else, or maybe they are having a fikra dunyawiyya or ukhrawiyya, or maybe, for example, something is really bothering them and that caused them to forget exactly. هل صلى أربعا أو ثلاثا أم لا يدري أصلا في أي ركعة هو. He doesn't know which rak'ah he's in. Like in majority of the times, a Muslim should aim to fulfill the salah successfully without the need of doing sujood al-sahw. So you need to know, inshallah, what are the things that literally lead to the nullification of your salah before we even look at sujood al-sahw, inshallah ta'ala. So, فيقول المصنف رحمة الله عليه باب مفسدات الصلاة وتفسد الصلاة بالضحك عمدا أو سهوا وبسجود السهو للفضيلة وبتعمد زيادة ركعة أو سجدة أو نحو ذلك في الصلاة وبالأكل والشرب وبالكلام عمدا إلا لإصلاح الصلاة فتبطل بكثيره دون يسيره وبالنفخ عمدا وبالحدث وبذكر الفائتة وبالقيء إن تعمده. Inshallah, we're going to stop here because the rest of the other ones, as I said, they relate to Sajdatul Sahw. You don't want to look at them right now. So when he starts, the first thing that he covers amazingly, he starts with al-dhahik. What is al-dhahik? Al-dhahik is to laugh. When you laugh in salah, then sometimes you don't laugh, you actually smile. And the majority of the times when someone remembers a thought that literally makes them be in that state of emotion, they smile. Sometimes they smile so much to a level where they are about to laugh, but they don't laugh. But then there are people that literally giggle in salah, and then there are those that literally laugh fully. Now in the Hanafi madhab, what it does, laughing in salah, it doesn't just nullify your salah, but actually nullifies your wudu as well. Different from the Maliki madhab, which is madhabuna nahm. The madhab provides that if you are to laugh in salah, then your salah is invalid. Lakin your wudu is not. Your wudu is not. Lakin, also you need to understand now, however, هناك أحكام ما تخص الفذة وما تخص الإمامة وما تخص المأمومة. There are ahkam, rules that literally they are specific for the fadh, the one who is praying alone, and then there are those which are specific for the imam, and then there are those for the ma'moom, Now what does the Sahibu al-Jawahir al-Zakiyya provide in his sharh? وَيَقْطَعُ الْفَذُّ وَيَسْتَخْلِفُ الْإِمَامِ فِي الْغَلَبَةِ وَالنِّسْيَانِ. The one who is praying alone, they break their salah and then they begin again their salah. But that is after they finish laughing in their salah. But if the imam does the act, what does he do? He removes himself from the position of salah and he exchanges positions with the one behind him to take over his position. وَيَسْتَخْلِفُ الْإِمَامِ فِي الْغَلَبَةِ وَالنِّسْيَانِ. What does this mean? If the imam was not capable of holding himself, or maybe they forgot at the time while they were praying and then they committed an action of laughing, then it doesn't matter whether you did it purposely or you did it undeliberately. In both situations and both scenarios, you must leave the position and provide the position of imamah to someone else. Now what does the imam do? The imam goes behind the ma'moom, basically he goes behind the other imam who will take his position, and he changes his niyyah, he alters his niyyah, his intention. The one who will be leading the salah now, taking the position, what does he do? He alters his niyyah, and now he is not a ma'moom anymore. In fact, he is an imam, because he is in the position of imamah, and he must do that. Otherwise, the rest of the salah is batila. وَلَيْتَتْ بَاطِلَ لَهُ فَقَدْ لَكِنَّهَا بَاطِلَ لِلْآخَرِينَ. Even for those who are praying, he will make the salah to become invalid for the rest of the other ones that are praying behind him. Lakin what about the ma'moom? If the ma'moom is to laugh, if the ma'moom laughs, now there's a lot of explanation in regards to that, and they provide over here, even if you look at حاشية الصفتي, ماذا يقول يجب عليه التمادي على صلاة باطلة لحرمة الإمام بشروط خمسة. Okay, بشروط خمسة. There are 5 shurut that the imam, that the ma'moom, when they commit this certain action, maybe they have to stay behind with the imam and hold on. Lakin there are other situations where they have to leave. Lakin what you need to take and understand clearly, don't ask for more explanation because it will be very difficult. There's so much that you need to unveil so that you can understand. But what you need to understand as a ma'moom, simply put, if you are to laugh in salah and then you are behind an imam and you're being led, then make sure that you carry on with the salah لِحُرْمَةِ الْإِمَامِ, due to the position of the imam, the respect of the imam. You must have ihtiram for the imam because he is the one leading the salah. هو بمثابة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم كان إماما للأمة وما زال إلى اليوم إماما للأمة وهو قدوتنا. He is our guide and he is our imam, our leader. So the imam who leads the salah is in the position of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. You must respect him. So what do? You carry on with the salah until you finish the salah. لكن صلاتك باطلة. Your salah is invalid. You have to finish the salah with the imam لحرمته ثم تعيد الصلاة أبدا وليس ندبا. You repeat the salah. You have to repeat the salah as an obligation, and you do not regard it as just something nadban, which is a sunnah to repeat. It is liked to repeat. No, you must repeat it. It is compulsory to do so, inshallah ta'ala. That is the hukm of dhahik. If you are to laugh in salah, whether amdan or sahwan, then bear in mind your salah becomes invalid. And if you are praying alone, what do? You have to repeat your salah then. And if you are praying as a ma'moom, you have to wait until tatamada, until you finish the salah, and then you repeat your salah. And if you an imam, you let go of the position of imamah and you swap with the one behind you, the one who deserves to be the imam, who will take the position of the imam, and then they will lead the salah while your salah is batila. However, you become a ma'moom at the time, and then when the salah finishes, you repeat your salah, inshallah. لكن ذلك لا يبطل وضوءك. That does not nullify your wudu. Bear that in mind. But there's an issue of tabassum. When a person literally does ibtisama in salah, what about if they smile? If a person smiles for so long, or maybe they smile for too short, ولا حرج في ذلك. There's no issue. You shouldn't worry about that at all. Okay, you shouldn't worry about that at all. والمسائل التي ذكرها العلماء لا نذكرها إن شاء الله تعالى الآن. لكن ندخل في الثانية. And the second thing that he mentions over here, وبسجود السهو للفضيلة. أيوة. To do sujood al-sahw for a fadilah, an action which is known to be a meritorious deed. If you go back to the previous classes, you notice that we mentioned the meritorious deeds, and we even mentioned some abiyat from Ashalul Masalik. And you notice that the ones that we mentioned as provided for us, you must make sure that you do fulfill them in order to have a complete salah. But the issue is, if you are to forget a fadilah, if you forget a fadilah, do you do sujood al-sahw? The answer is no. If you are to do sujood al-sahw just because of a fadilah, لفضيلة واحدة أو فضيلتين, for two fadilas or one fadilah, if you are to do this sujood al-sahw, أبطلت صلاتك. You have literally nullified your salah. You've caused your salah to become invalid. You have to repeat your salah again. You do not do that. لأنك زدت. أنت زدت في صلاتك. You have added an additional action in salah, and you should not be doing this. When do you do sujood al-sahw? If, for example, you commit a sunnah, you forget a sunnah in salah, and we're not mentioning the main sunnahs that we mentioned first. We are mentioning the ones that we know. If you are to miss it, then it will cause you to miss three sunnahs. مثلا, if you do not do a qira'ah in your surah, if you do not read your surah after the Fatiha. If you do not read your surah after the Fatiha, then you have missed three sunnahs. القيام للسورة وقراءة السورة وإما قراءة هذه السورة جهرا أو سرا. One of those two. And that makes it three. And then you have to do sujood al-sahw wujuban. You must do it. Otherwise, abtalta salatak. You have invalidated your salah. Lakin when it comes to a fadila, if you are to miss a fadila, then la haraj. You don't have a problem. You should not do sujood al-sahw. You should not do sujood al-sahw. If you do so, it becomes an issue, inshallah ta'ala. وَهَذَا حُكْمُ سُجُودِ السَّهْوِ لِلْفَضِيلَةِ. And there are other ahkam related to sujood al-sahw that we're not going to mention here, inshallah ta'ala. But the next one that he mentions that وَبِتَعَمُّدِ زِيَادَةِ رَكْعَةٍ أَوْ سَجْدَةٍ أَوْ نَحْوِ ذَلِكَ فِي الصَّلَاةِ. If you purposely add in salah either a rak'ah or sajdah, مثلا, or maybe you are to add in your salah, to increase in your salah on other type of deed, like let's say a ruku', or maybe you are to read, what if you read Surah Al-Fatiha twice, for example, in that case? The ulama, they've disputed on the issue of reciting Surah Al-Fatiha marratain in a rak'ah. Lakin when it comes to adding a movement, a physical deed in salah, specifically a physical deed, we're not talking about a surah, a deed which requires the tongue, which emanates from the tongue, like reading a surah or maybe doing tasbih. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a physical one that requires your other bodily limbs other than the tongue. These ones, then if you are to commit them, an issue comes by. What is it? You invalidate your salah, because there's only one ruku' for each rak'ah, there's only one sajda for each rak'ah, and there's only one qiyam for each rak'ah. You don't come with double qiyam. لا تأتي بقيامين ولا ركوعين ولا سجدتين. لا تفعل ذلك ولا سلامين ولا تكبيرتين للإحرام. No. There is no such thing as that. If you are to do that, you make your salah batila. Now there is the case of a person that literally when they are leading themselves in salah, مثلا, they're praying as a fadh, or maybe they are in that moment they are being led by an imam, and they can literally see that the imam. Let's talk about the issue of the imam rather than the fadh. The fadh, once you add in the salah amdan, then your salah becomes batila. Sah? Lakin what if the imam is adding in salah, and you as a ma'moom, you are certain the imam is adding a fifth rak'ah, مثلا, or the imam is adding an additional qiyam, or the imam is adding an additional sujood, and you are certain of this. Do you follow the imam in this situation? Let's take, for example, the case of the imam is adding a fifth rak'ah on a 4 rak'at salah. Or maybe the imam is adding a 4th rak'ah in Salatul Maghrib, or a 3rd rak'ah in Salatul Subh. مثلا, in this case, what do? You do not follow the imam. Lakin, do you do salam and finish your salah? La. If the imam stands while they believe that they are certain on their addition, because they have to add that in salah, or maybe they are not certain, they're adding in the salah, and you have already told the imam, subhanallah, 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 yeah, zitta, you've added your 5th in salah, in this case, and they're not listening, they're still carrying on because they have this shak, and they want to follow what their instincts tell them. In this case, if you are certain, you stay where you are, you wait for the imam until they come on the julus, the jalsa al-akhira, and in this case, what do? you wait for them while they do salam, then that's when you do salam with them. But you do not have the right to leave the salah just because the imam has committed a mistake in salah. La, that's not how you do it. How do you do it? You wait for the imam to come down until they reach to the jalsa, and then while they have finished, inshallah ta'ala, then that's when they do salam, you do salam with them bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. Now, there's an issue of if the imam does a sujood ba'di or sujood qabli when it comes to sajdatul sahw. Do you follow the imam in this case or not? Because you might be adding in your salah or you might not be adding in your salah, and this becomes another issue that we don't want to discuss at the moment bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. But as you know, as a ma'moom, if you find that the imam has added in salah and you feel that they're doing it amdan, or maybe they are doing it and they're not listening to those of the ma'moom behind them, or maybe one of you are the only one that said subhanallah, mathalan in this case, and you're trying to convince them and telling them to show them that it is certain you have already fulfilled your salah, do not add in salah, and yet they're not listening. Even if it's you alone, you wait until the imam comes back to his position, and then you do salam with the imam, inshallah ta'ala. The next one that we have to mention of the mubtilatul salah is al-aklu wa-shurb. Al-aklu wa-shurb, if you are to eat in salah amdan, then your salah becomes batila straight away. Or you drink in salah amdan, your salah becomes batila straight away. Or if your little daughter, or maybe your son, your child, or maybe your wife or your husband, while you're praying, first of all, they have already violated your salah by coming right in front of you while you have a sutra that literally protects you from bypasses, right? Those who pass right in front of you. They say that's number one. Number two, that's their mistake and they have committed a haram deed over here. They will be sinful. Number two, they come literally with a straw and they're trying to feed you water on purpose. In this case, does your salah become batila? If they are to do this, you have to prevent it. You have to prevent it, otherwise you're going to nullify your salah. But what if, for example, I finished eating and then I have some meat or maybe some food in between my teeth, and then all of a sudden I find it in between and it's already appeared, it's on my tongue, and ana abla'uhu, I end up swallowing it. What happens in this case? In this case, your salah is sahiha. Your salah is sahih. Your salah is not batila. Your salah is accepted, but you do not come into salah and you have a big chunk of meat and you're saying, I'm going to keep this over here so that I can carry on with my salah. I know my salah will be sahih. I entered in salah while I already have a piece of meat in my mouth. This applies to many of those who chew gum in their salah. Why so? Because many people enter salah while they have gum in their mouth. If you have gum in your mouth, the salah is batila. You don't do that because you should not have anything in your mouth. Gum, as long as you chew it, even if you don't swallow it, but it is swallowable, in this case, you should not have it. If you do so, you invalidate your salah. Young men, young women, when you come to salah, even adults, make sure you don't have any gum or any bubbles or any sweets in your bubble gums or sweets in your mouth that end up invalidating your salah. You would rather drop it and buy another one or maybe eat another one after salah. But in that moment of time, you should not be eating, nor should you be drinking, inshallah ta'ala. The next of what we have to mention over here, وَبِالْكَلَامِ عَمْدًا. If you are to speak in salah, in this case, does your salah become invalid? Yes, it becomes invalid. Lakin there is the case of, for example, a person sneezes. If this person atasa, what does he do? If he says alhamdulillah, it came out of him, they can't control it, their salah is fine. But what if a person says yarhamkallah, or a lady who is on the side of another lady being led in the masjid, they say yarhamkillah. The one who said yarhamkillah, blessing rahmah for the one who sneezed, they have invalidated their salah, not the one who said alhamdulillah. Lakin if you say it amdan, alhamdulillah, after the sneezing, it is not recommended at all. What you do is, if it came out of you just because you sneezed and you are forgetfully you say it, then it's fine. Your salah is sahiha. Lakin for the one who says yarhamkallah and blessing another person of mercy because of the sneezing, no, you don't do that. That it would invalidate your salah. لأن هذا يعتبر أنه الكلام عمدا في الصلاة. That is regarded as talking deliberately in salah. But there is a part where you can speak and it does not invalidate your salah, let alone the sneezing. There's إلا لإصلاح الصلاة. Only to do what? To fix a salah. For example, as we mentioned earlier, if the imam is to add in salah, mathalan, and while they're adding in salah, you're trying to tell the imam, subhanallah, subhanallah, and they're not listening, and then they say what? You tell them, zitta khamsan, zitta al-khamisah, or زدت الرابعة or زدت الثالثة. مثلا in this case, you've added a third, you've added a fifth, you added a fourth. Okay, a fourth rak'ah or whatever it might be. In this case, your salah is valid still because you're trying to fix a salah. You're trying to fix a salah. In this case, you are fine. Like if you are to purposely speak, you shouldn't do that because there was a period of time when, as we mentioned earlier in our previous classes, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ أي ساكتين خاضعين. قال ذلك للصحابة رضوان الله عليهم وقال الله ذلك لنا كذلك. When we enter into salah, there was a period of time that the Sahaba, they used to speak in salah and it was valid for them. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He mentioned وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ أي طَائِعِينَ لِلَّهِ, المقصود ليس بالطاعة فقط لكن خاضعين ساكتين. While you are standing quietly, you're not talking, you're not paying attention to anything other than that of the salah. لأنك عندما تقول الله أكبر تسقط كل الأشياء في الدنيا إلا التركيز في الصلاة لأنك أمام الله تبارك وتعالى. المولى القدير العالي, the one who is on top of us, above us, Allah تبارك وتعالى. Are we not to pay attention to Him while you're in salah, ya ikhwah? So that's the case, بإذن الله الكريم. فتبطل بكثيره دون يسيره. If you are to carry on, مثلا, let's say in this case you've already reminded the Imam of زدت الخامسة, or maybe you said Subhanallah, whatever it might be. In this case, what if the Imam, let's say he forgot a verse and he's waiting for someone to correct him, and then the Imam says ردوها علي, return it back to me, tell me, someone tell me. Mathalan, for example, in this case, and he used the verse of the Quran, it's fine. But if there is no one to return it back to him, he has to carry on with his, to explain it for him, or maybe give him the next verse, or maybe correct him while he moves on, or remind him of what he's forgotten, then his salah is fine. لكن إذا كثر الكلام بطلت الصلاة. If the speaking becomes too much, then your salah becomes باطلة. Because فتبطل بكثير الكلام ودون يسيره. You have to speak what is required, the minimum requirement. Beyond that, it becomes really problematic, inshallah ta'ala. وبالنفخ عمدا وبالحدث وبذكر الفائتة وبالقيء إن تعمده. Now we're going to mention something called النفخ والقيء inshallah ta'ala. لكن الحدث وذكر الفائتة, we're going to keep them for the last. Although القيء is the last one, but I would want to connect it with النفخ because they all relate to the mouth. النفخ, what does it refer to? النفخ is when you, for example, you do a قهقه, or maybe you blow, you whistle مثلا, or you do If you are to do that on purpose, your salah becomes batila. What about at-tanahud? At-tanahud is to sigh, to sigh as in relief, or maybe to release a certain, maybe to breathe heavily because you are sad, or maybe you are tired, or maybe a person that yawned and then all of a sudden some sound came out of them. In this case, it's all put together. So the fuqaha, in the Musannif rahimahullah ta'ala over here, he did not mention it. Lakin the fuqaha who did the hashiyah, or maybe the sharh of this book, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them for the hard work they have done. What have they mentioned? They've included al-qahqahatu, al-tanahudu, al-nafkhu, all of these things which can be included as part of al-nafkhu itself. If one blows on purpose, if one is to do tanahud on purpose, if one is to literally release a certain sound on purpose, then that would do what? That would invalidate their salah. But if they accidentally do it, then your salah does not become batila. Your salah does not become batila. Bear that in mind. Which means that you have to avoid even the slightest of that, because you will lead your salah to do what? To become invalid. But in this case, for example, if the imam is the one to do this while leading a salah which is either a jahr salah, which is a salah that requires reading in manifestly, explicitly, or even if it's a salah that you read sirran, which is implicitly, you do not raise a voice in that case, but then maybe he's in a raka'ah that he doesn't really have to read out loud, but then he sighs in relief accidentally, is fine. But if they are to blow out, like whistling, or maybe blow out some wind on purpose, then in this case, they have invalidated the salah, and they do exactly as we mentioned. فَيَسْتَخْلِفُ الْإِمَامِ يُسْتَحَبُّ لَهُ أَنْ يَسْتَخْلِفَ مَنْ يُتِمُّ بِهِمْ. It is recommended for him to do what? To exchange positions for someone that will take over for leading the others behind him, and he will take he will become a ma'moom and then he will repeat his salah, in this case similar to the one that we mentioned of the laughing person. Now what about when it comes to al-qay'u? Al-qay'u, in the Hanafi school, they mention that it does not just invalidate your salah, but in fact invalidation and also the invalidation of wudu, invalidation of salah and wudu. لكن على حسب المذهب على مذهبنا مذهب المالكية, there is no such thing as invalidation of salah of wudu, but there is invalidation of salah in تقيأت عمدا. If a person, or if you are to do what? To vomit on purpose. If you are to vomit on purpose, then what happens? You invalidate your salah. And vomits of two types. There's the vomit that literally maybe you just finished eating, and then maybe the food that comes out of you is still fresh food. Basically, it has not been mixed up in the ma'iddah of the human being, in the intestines and all of that. Because once that happens, what comes out is not really pleasant at all. We all know that. It's not really pleasant at all. But in that case, that which comes out, it does not become najis. It's not regarded as najis. لكن والقيء إن تغير. Okay? Al-qay is regarded as najis when it changes. كما قال صاحب أسهل المسالك. لكن if qay comes out as it has changed already mixed and already blended in your system and your intestines and that, then that becomes najisan mutlaqan. You do not regard it as tahiran at all. It's regarded as najisa, and you get rid of it, inshallah ta'ala, and you have to do your salah. And this is something which we do not want to delve into. As you can see, we're trying to cut off a lot of masail, subhanallah, because we cannot really mention every single bit necessary bi'idhnillahi al-kareem, because what you need is just what's important for you to fulfill your salah as a Muslim bi'idhnillah. Now we mentioned al-nafkhu, which is blowing, and also we've mentioned al-qay'u. Like there is al-hadath, and then we have dhikr al-fa'ita. Al-hadath is to be in a state of impurity. In a state of if you end up falling in a state of impurity, let's say like you release wind, or maybe some urine come out of you because maybe you coughed really hard, or maybe something happened while you're in salah, in that case, then, or some madhi comes out of you. Some people have this problem. In this case, your salah become batila straight away. You have to leave your salah and then you have to do tahara. You have to leave your salah. In this case, you do not wait for the imam to finish the salah. No. If you are in a state of hadath, you leave the salah and then you come back to follow where the imam is carrying on, if possible. Lakin al-dahk, or al-nafkh, or al-kalamu amdan, these ones, you have to wait until you finish your salah and then you repeat your salah, because they are not related to hadath. There's something called hadath. This hadath means you are in a state of impurity, whether physical, tangible impurity or not tangible impurity. In all cases, you are not pure. You have to leave your salah in this case. لكن هذه المفسدات الأخرى هذه تبطل صلاتك لكن لا تدخلك في حالة الحدث. These do not put you in a state of hadath. You do not enter in a state of hadath. In fact, they just invalidate your salah. The last thing that we want to mention is dhikr al-fa'ita. This is pretty interesting actually. What's quite amazing is that not many madhahib would mention, lakin in the Maliki madhab they mention this really beautifully. They say that if, for example, دخلت في المسجد مثلا وترى أن الإمام قد قام للصلاة والصلاة, let's say مثلا, the imam has already stood for salah as you've entered the masjid, and as you enter the masjid the imam has stood for salah, and the salah he is praying is salatul asr. مثلا نقول أنها صلاة العصر. You're praying salatul asr, and in this case, while you've entered into salah, you realize that, oh, I haven't prayed dhuhr, or maybe I have not even prayed salatul subh. In this case, what happens? You cannot carry on with your salah. You have to leave your salah so that you fulfill the previous salah, okay, and then you enter into the current salah, because your current salah cannot be accepted if you have a salah which you have not completed. لكن العلماء اختلفوا على ذلك on certain issues, because, for example, when it comes to صاحب الرسالة and also Ibn Habib, what do they say? ومن ذكر صلاة في صلاة فسدت هذه عليه. Okay, the one who is to mention a salat fa'ita, a salah which they've missed, a missed prayer, a missed salah, in this case, while they are in a salah, then that salah which they are praying right now in that current situation, in that current moment, becomes invalidated due to the previous missed salah. And بعضهم, they said, كما قال Ibn Habib, he says what? تفسد بالذكر, that salah becomes invalid if they remember while they are in salah. فمنهم من قال يريد إذا أفسدها على نفسه لقوله في المدونة. والقطع مستحب. Okay, والقطع مستحب. لكن what we can mention according to the madhahib of the ulama, according to the mu'tamad of the madhab that we have over here, you might be athim, you might be a sinful person while you are praying that salah. Lakin does it make that current salah becomes batilah per se? No. Al-mu'tabad anna salataka sahiha, lakin after that you have to repeat the previous salah and you will carry on like that. But it is not recommended at all to carry on with the salah that you are praying while you already have a previous salah that you have not completed. Because what if a person, let's say, they have about 5 salahs that they have to fulfill and a current salah has entered. Let's say you have 5 asr. You have to fulfill all of those. And there's a current salah that has entered. What do you do in this case? How do you pray all 5 and then pray the 6th one, which is the current one in this case? Becomes a little bit difficult, isn't it? So we cannot just provide and say that your salah becomes batila straight away. So what we provide is that, yeah, it is not recommended to do so because al-mu'tamad annahu wajibun ghayru shart فلا تبطل الصلاة بتركه على المعتمد. It is a wajib, not a condition. It is recommended, highly recommended, and it is an obligation to do so, but it is not a condition for the salah to become sahihah, the one that you are praying right now. That's what the ulama provide. So if you carry on with your salah, carry on with your salah. But if, for example, if you're praying as a fadh, a person praying alone, in this case, what do? It's best that you stop this salah, you pray the previous salah, then you fulfill this salah. Lakin if you're carrying on with this salah as you're behind the imam, you can finish this salah and then repeat the previous salah. But if you remembered while you haven't even entered salah and you see that the imam has already started salah, while you have a previous salah that has not really been fulfilled yet, then that would invalidate your salah. You have to be very careful with that, inshallah ta'ala. And we'll stop here bi'idhnillahi al-kareem, and we're going to leave the other masail for other classes, inshallah ta'ala, if we're going to carry the next ones in the future. But we highly request you to subscribe on the channel bi'idhnillah, and on top of that, to make sure that you enter into our mailing list. And soon, inshallah ta'ala, when we have a Telegram channel as well, you would be notified so that you can enter into it and be updated with the course material or maybe course updates and other courses to come in Mustafa's Academy bi'idhnillah al-kareem. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.
Al-Haajar TV, mwangaza kwa umma.